Welcome to the Explainer. So, if you've ever stood right there in the middle of an aquarium shop, just staring at rows and rows of glass boxes, feeling completely overwhelmed by all the choices, yeah, you are definitely in the right place. Today, our goal is super simple. We're demystifying this entire and honestly often kind of intimidating process of choosing the absolute perfect aquarium size for your space. I mean, it's a huge decision, right? It literally dictates the whole future of your ecosystem. But it absolutely does not have to be stressful. We're going to break down the source material into clear, actionable steps so you can make the absolute best choice with total confidence. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our blueprint for today. We're looking at the small tank myth, measuring your physical space, planning your aquatic life, equipment and maintenance reality, and we'll wrap it all up with the quick decision framework.
All right, Section 1, the small tank myth. So, here's a question. Is a smaller tank actually easier for beginners? I want you to just picture someone who's, maybe a bit nervous about starting out in the hobby. Naturally, they think buying a tiny little 5-gallon desktop tank is the safest bet to avoid some massive water disaster in their living room. Less water equals less risk, right? I mean, it sounds so logical. But the reality of water chemistry, it tells a completely, drastically different story.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how it completely flips that beginner logic right on its head. Large tanks are actually way more stable and honestly a lot more forgiving of mistakes, simply because they dilute waste. Think of it like this. A single drop of food coloring completely ruins a small glass of water, right? But you drop that same amount into a swimming pool and it does absolutely nothing. Small tanks, on the other hand, are incredibly vulnerable. You're going to see rapid chemistry and temperature swings. They respond so much faster to just a simple feeding mistake, making problems incredibly hard to correct once things start spiraling. So the absolute golden rule here, water volume equals stability. If you want a low-stress setup, going with the largest tank your space can comfortably handle is almost always your best bet.
Moving right along to Section 2, measuring your physical space.
Now, it's really not just about the length and width of the glass box itself. We have to talk about what I like to call hidden space requirements. Just imagine spending hours, and let's be real, a good chunk of money, setting up this stunning reef tank right in the corner of your room, only to realize, wait, I left zero clearance for the plumbing. Or worse, you literally can't squeeze your arm behind it to reach the filter for a basic water change. You absolutely have to leave some breathing room around the tank for those bulky electrical cords, the hoses, and just comfortable physical access for yourself. Trust me, planning this clearance right now is going to save you from some incredibly stressful adjustments later on.
And please, whatever you do, do not underestimate the sheer weight of what you're building here. Even a pretty modest aquarium becomes actually incredibly heavy once it's fully assembled. Water alone is a massive load. We're talking roughly 8 pounds per gallon. Then, you add in the heavy wooden stand, a deep substrate, those massive rocks, the decorations, the whole shebang. You have to confirm, without a shadow of a doubt, that your stand is specifically rated for the tank's full capacity. And honestly, just as importantly, you need to check that the actual floor joists right beneath it can handle that concentrated weight without sagging. Nobody wants their aquarium ending up in the basement.
Okay, Section 3, planning your aquatic life.
To get this right, we need to tackle a really vital piece of insider jargon, and that is bioload. Basically, this is the amount of waste produced by the specific fish and invertebrates living in your aquarium. So the crucial point to remember is that your stocking goals actually dictate your sizing guide. Different species don't just need different amounts of swimming space, they produce totally different levels of bioload that your water volume has to be able to safely dilute and process.
So, when you're sizing up a tank for your livestock, you've always got to start by researching the adult size of the species. Don't base your decision on those tiny, cute little juvenile fish you see at the local shop, because they are going to grow. Plus, you really need to treat recommended minimum tank sizes strictly as a baseline, not a target. If you're ever on the fence, the source material highly recommends planning for some extra room just to avoid overcrowding. Factoring in their social needs and territorial behaviors, that's what ensures your animals actually thrive without being stressed out. It's kind of like living in a tiny studio apartment with a super messy roommate. If it's too crowded, nobody's having a good time.
And this brilliantly illustrates a reality that so many people completely miss when planning out their setups. Your total tank volume, minus your substrate, your hardscape, and your plants, that equals your actual usable swimming space, right? A tank with a heavily planted aquascape or a super deep sand bed drastically cuts down the actual water volume your fish have to swim in. I mean, a 50-gallon tank absolutely does not hold 50 gallons of water once you chuck 30 pounds of rock in there. Actually, scratch that. It might be even less water than you think. You just really have to factor your layout into your volume calculations to make sure your fish have the room they need.
Which brings us to Section 4, Equipment and Maintenance Reality.
Okay, so as your tank volume scales up, your equipment has to scale right along with it. Your filter size, your heater capacity, lighting intensity, the water circulation pumps, all of it needs to appropriately match the aquarium's physical size and your specific bioload expectations. And I really have to warn you here, a tank that fits beautifully in your room but forces you to use undersized equipment just because of a tight budget or limited cabinet space, that is a one-way ticket to severe, long-term maintenance headaches. Your gear simply has to be powerful enough to handle the specific ecosystem you've built.
But hey, the gear is really only half the battle, right? Maintenance matters just as much as that initial setup. Let's compare the realities. Large tank upkeep usually means fewer abrupt, dangerous chemistry changes. It's more stable, but it undeniably demands more of your time and vastly more water per water change. Now, small tank upkeep, it requires far less water per change, making it physically a bit easier, but, and this is a big but, it demands highly consistent, frequent testing to prevent a rapid system crash. So you gotta be honest with yourself here. Think about what maintenance schedule you can realistically commit to doing every single week or bi-weekly, because consistent upkeep, that's the true secret to long-term success in this hobby.
Let's move to Section 5 and see how this all builds into the quick decision framework.
All right, we've busted the myths, we've looked at hidden space requirements, livestock needs, and the harsh realities of maintenance. Now let's take all of that fantastic source material and boil it down into the ultimate actionable checklist. Here is a super satisfying logical progression you can use right now. Step 1. Measure your physical space and make absolutely sure you have that necessary clearance for cords, plumbing, and, well, your own arms. Step 2. Set the absolute maximum tank size your stand and your floor can safely structurally hold. Step 3. From those safe options, pick a volume that comfortably supports the adult size and the bioload of your intended fish. And Step 4, our absolute golden rule. If multiple sizes work for your space and your fish, always prefer the larger option for that extra stability. Just follow those 4 steps, and you'll have an ironclad plan for your own home setup.
So here's the final question. Are you ready to commit to the consistent maintenance of your ideal tank? Because ultimately, the perfect aquarium size isn't just some random number of gallons you pick out of a hat. It's the size that seamlessly fits your physical space, correctly matches what your equipment can handle, and perfectly aligns with a maintenance routine you can actually stick to, all while giving your aquatic life the room they need to thrive. So go take those measurements, take a real honest look at your schedule, and ask yourself, what kind of underwater world are you truly ready to build?